Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching this video. Thank you for joining us here with the Connected Learning Team Summer Tech Session. My name is Brittany Gray. I'm a 7th grade English teacher at Battleground Middle School. This will be my 6th year in the TSC, and I'm very excited to be giving you this presentation about IXL. I've used IXL in my classroom for the last 5 years. I'm learning as I go, and I hope that I'm able to just share with you my successes, and hopefully you're able to take away at least one small little nugget that you can use as we plan for the 2021-22 school year. So let me get these controls out the way, and then we'll get started. All right, what is IXL? So a lot of teachers, especially new ones or ones who've never worked with IXL before, this is probably your first question. You are wondering, what exactly is IXL? And IXL is online personal learning. This is learning that is tailored to our students. And it covers our state curriculum and our state standards for both English and math, which is completely awesome. When we get into IXL, and I'm going to take you there in a minute, you're going to see science and social studies as options too, but we do not have that in the TSC. We just have English and math. So the IXL program has over 85,000 skills for teachers from kindergarten or pre-K all the way up to 12th grade to use to help drive their instruction, but most importantly, to differentiate instruction. And I know differentiate is a big buzzword in education circles. A lot of our administration, they're wanting us to show how we are differentiating our instruction to meet our students' individual needs. And this is a great way to do that. Yes, the setup will be a little bit much, but once you get your feet going in IXL, it's a smooth process. And I hope to help you through that process today. Now, when we get into IXL, you are going to see that everything is arranged by your classes. And the good news is with this is that you do not have to do any of the work. All of the classes in IXL are automatically populated according to your roster. So, the tech gurus behind the scene, they take care of doing all of that for you. Any new changes to your roster, because we all know our rosters change, it almost seems like on a daily basis. Any new changes to your roster are going to be reflected in IXL within 24 to 48 hours. So that is another good thing. There's a very quick turnaround when students drop classes, move in. You will see the changes within 1 to 2 days. So now I'm going to show you how to get to IXL, and then we're going to talk about your classes and your dashboard. The easiest way to get to IXL, if you've never done it before, is to go to the TSC homepage and to go to the Tech Links section, and IXL is in the left-hand column. So clicking there, and then you can sign in with Clever, or if you've been to IXL before, you've probably have saved your password because we all have many passwords just floating around in our heads. So mine are automatically saved. So the minute you click in to IXL, you are taken to the dashboard, and the dashboard just gives you a quick snapshot of what your students have done so far in IXL. So for me personally this year, my classes combined have answered almost 56,000 questions. They've mastered 186 skills, and 757 skills they are proficient in. So that is a great way to see how you used, how you have used IXL this year, especially if that is one of like your personal goals that you have set for yourself. Now, in order to see your classes, you would just simply click on this Students tab, and the Student Quick View will pop up, and it will give you a breakdown in 30-day increments. So in the last 30 days, it'll tell you how much your students have worked in IXL. And if you want to look at just one class in particular, you can do that. Like I said, all your rosters are automatically populated. So clicking the class tab and just picking a roster, I'm going to pick my 4th period. So my 4th period, they've answered 115 questions as a group. And if I scroll down, I can see just how many questions, each individual student has answered. I can also break it down by grade level skills. I can set the range of skills. So as you can see, IXL skills will range from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. And I could even do a date range from the last 30 days to all the way through this school year. So there's lots of options for you to pick and choose how you want to look at that data that best fits your needs. This will really come in handy, this date range, if you use IXL for a personal goal. Using this data for the last 30 days or even the school year, that is a great option for you. If you want to look for a specific student, you would just click this box right here and you can focus in on a student of your choice that you're focusing on. Okay, something else I also wanted to point out in the analytics section that I have found to be helpful with my students is this idea of trouble spots. This is a great way to see real time what students are struggling with. Again, you can break it down by class section, and then once you get there, let me just choose a, actually, let's go to 5th period, sorry. Okay, all students, so once I'm in my class, I can pinpoint one student, and once I pinpoint that student, I can see it says missed questions from this item type. So it will give you an overview of what he or she has been getting wrong. And then you can pull him or her aside for some small group, individual one-on-one attention to help them through that problem. And this is basically what I talked about. This dashboard is where you're first taken to, and then you can break everything down from there and go as deep as you want to. All right, what is available in IXL? IXL has, like I said, everything from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade. And every skill that's listed in IXL matches up or correlates to one of our state standards, which is amazing because we never want to make our students do something that they aren't supposed to be learning. Okay, learning is always key. There are 2 ways where you can view what's available for your students. You can either do it by grades or you can do it by topics. So this is just a screenshot of what the grades option looks like. It gives you a brief overview of what's included, and then you would click this button right here to open up that web page, and you can see all the skills for your particular grade. Or another way to do it, let's say you're working on a skill. So let's say I'm working on finding the main idea of a passage, and I have students that are at grade level for that particular skill, and I have students that are below grade level for that skill. This is where the topics tab will come in handy because I can go to my skill, which is the main idea, and I can click on that skill and it will show me by grade level what's included within that skill. And I'm going to show you that here in real time so you aren't just looking at screenshots. So I am currently in the analytics tab. In order to get to the list of skills that are available in IXL, you're going to click the Learning tab, and that takes you to the screen that we were just on. So it automatically defaults to the grade. So again, I teach 7th grade, so I'm going to click on that. And this lists all the skills available for 7th grade. So there are many options to choose from. IXL is not limited to reading or writing. It has everything that you could possibly need. It has reading strategies, writing strategies, vocabulary, and grammar and mechanics. So there's something for you to use at least once, twice, maybe even 4 or more times throughout the year, because especially as English teachers, we are covering all of these main topics all year. So we can definitely find ways to circle back and hit on these important topics as the year goes on from August to May. So that's what it looks like according to the grades. And then I'm going to show you what the topics tab looks like. So again, it just lists everything by topics. So I started with main idea, so let's continue on that path. I'm working with in nonfiction on main idea. And it lists all the skills from kindergarten to 12th grade that have to deal with the main idea. This is great, again, to really differentiate your instruction. If you have students that are at grade level, you can have them work within those grade level main idea skills. If you have students that are below grade level, you can have them work at the level that they're at so that they can build up to their actual grade level. So that is how the skills tab works with your topics. Something else that IXL has that I really have found helpful in the last few years that I've really tried to push IXL into my classroom as a way to help my students is the skill plan. And what the skill plan does, it highlights the state standards. So if you scroll, you click skill plans, and then you scroll down and you click your language art skill plans. I'll go to the one that was adopted last year. And then you just click your grade level, whatever your grade level is. This skill plan page will list by skill level what IXL skill will be covered by that standard. So as you can see here, for reading vocabulary, if the learning outcome is to acquire and use accurately grade appropriate academic and content specific words and phrases, this right side will list all of the skills that will help your students achieve that learning outcome throughout the year. So if you're a planner like myself and you really want to make sure you are hitting those standards and making sure that your students understand and are mastering those standards, this skill plan is a great way for you to be sure that you are giving them the correct exercises for them to be able to do that. You can also print it out. I find that very helpful. I keep a printed skill plan in my teacher lesson planner all the time so that when I do hit a skill in IXL, I can match it to the standard that I'm doing in the classroom. So it's just another way to cross-check exactly what I'm doing. So I highly suggest the skill plan. All right, now we're going to talk about scoring in IXL. When your students get into IXL and they get into the exercises and working with the questions, they are going to receive something that is called a SMART score. And their SMART score in IXL is basically an accurate measure of their current understanding of the topic. So when your students are working in IXL, they're going to see a screen like this. And it will show them how many questions they've answered so far, how much time has passed, and then right underneath will be their SMART score out of 100. Their SMART score will change based off of them getting the questions correct or incorrect. The questions that your students receive are based off of this SMART score. And the reason why is because this SMART score is designed to meet the student at the level that they are currently at. So with every correct answer, like I said a little bit ago, with every correct answer, the SMART score will increase and the question difficulty will also increase as well. On the flip side, when a student answers incorrectly, their SMART score will decrease. And when they get the question wrong, they will get a screen that looks like this. So it'll say, sorry, incorrect. And then it will explain why they got the question wrong. And I highly, highly suggest that you have your students read through the explanation. A lot of students, unfortunately, will just tend to click through and then they won't read the explanation and then they end up getting another question wrong and then their score will drop further than that. So whenever you have a student who gets the question wrong, please encourage them to read through the explanation so that it can prevent them getting other things wrong in the future. So when the student answers incorrectly, like I said, the SMART score will decrease. So as you can see here, my SMART score was 72. I got the next question wrong. So my SMART score went from 72 down to 66. So now the subsequent questions that I use or that I will have to answer in IXL are going to be easier to build up my knowledge as I work my way back up on the SMART score scale. So like I said, this is just the second half of that explanation as to how they or why they got the question wrong. So it goes into detail. So this example is all about thesis statements, choosing the correct thesis statement. So it starts off by listing the question again and telling me what I answered. And then it goes into explaining what a thesis statement is and then the rationale for why the correct answer is what it is. Now, according to IXL, there are 3 levels of their SMART score. And I'll admit, when I first got into IXL, I did not know any of this at all. I had to do a lot of digging into blogs created by IXL to kind of figure out what the SMART score meant. I had no idea what it meant. So I'm happy to be sharing this little nugget with you. So according to IXL, there are 3 levels for their SMART score: proficiency, excellence, and mastery. Proficiency of a skill is a score that's ranging from 80 to 89. Excellence in a skill is ranging from 90 to 99, and mastery of a skill is a score of 100. And what these scores mean, because we all want to know what these scores mean, right? So a score of 80 or above shows that your students have a strong understanding of that particular skill. So one tip that I have for you guys is to not always push for the hundreds, because a lot of students just quite frankly aren't going to get there, or it's going to take them a long time to get there, and they're going to get frustrated and disappointed with themselves, and it's going to turn them off IXL. So as long as you're pushing for that proficiency level, your students are still going to show growth and knowledge, understanding of the skill that you are working on. So I know as teachers, we want to push for that 100%. We want our students to master our skills, but we also have to think on the flip side, what's in the best interest for the students. Some students are going to get to that mastery level with no problem. Okay, some students are going to take a while, and they still might get there, but unfortunately, a lot of our students, at least my students, they get frustrated when their scores get taken down, when they get the questions wrong, and it kind of discourages them. So I've taken a step back from having them achieve mastery, and I try to have them achieve anywhere from that proficiency to excellence to mid-excellence range. And I've seen a lot of success there. Which is exactly what I just said. I get ahead of myself. Okay. Again, when they get these questions wrong, this is a great time for teaching moments. I like to do a lot of real world teaching in the classroom. I like to encourage all my students, as I'm sure you all do as well. I really like to encourage them to have a growth mindset and to be okay with making mistakes, because mistakes are just a part of life, and they're going to be making mistakes for the rest of their lives. Nobody's perfect. So one tip and trick I have: one, like I said, please, please, please encourage them to read through the tutorial that they're given if they get a question wrong, because that will slow them down. Okay, reading that tutorial forces them to slow down, and it makes them think about why the question is wrong. Also, encourage them to ask questions. Some students, especially a lot of them that I had this year, a lot of my students did not want to ask questions because they felt that it made them appear dumb, which is not true at all. So really just encourage them from the beginning when you first assign IXL, really encourage them to ask questions if they don't understand something, and or just raise their hand if they need one-on-one attention, or you can have a small group at your desk, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this presentation, about how I incorporated small groups into this. All right, so now that we have walked through the basics of IXL and what all you can do inside of IXL, now I'm going to talk about how I specifically use IXL within my English class at Battleground. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there. This is definitely not a complete list of how to use IXL in the classroom. These are just ways that have worked for me this year, especially with the crazy year that we've all had. I've leaned on IXL a lot, especially with quarantines happening. This was a way to keep the students working at their skill level so that they didn't lose the knowledge that they had. So please, I am by no means an expert. I am learning on the fly, just like each and every one of you, and we're all doing a pretty good job at it, if I do say so myself. All right. Also, just please keep in mind that your IXL needs could and probably will change from year to year. It's just, when we look at our students and what they need and what they need work on, what they have already mastered. So your IXL needs are going to change from year to year. And like I said in the beginning, I hope that these next slides will provide you with a little nugget, a little starting point as we plan for the 21-22 school year. Okay, the first way, and probably the easiest way that I incorporate IXL in my classroom is through daily bell ringer exercises. Each day in class, my students have some sort of bell ringer to work on. It's going to range from a nonfiction work that they have to do with articles and answering the questions using text evidence. Some weeks it will be a language warm-up. Some weeks it will be a Greek and Latin roots warm-up. Some days it's just silent reading time for the first 10 minutes of class. But IXL is probably the easiest way to incorporate into your class as bell ringers. And what I do when I use IXL as bell ringers, I always tie it into what my students are doing as a whole. So that way they're not doing just some off-brand topic. It ties into what we are doing in the classroom. When we do IXL as bell ringers, I always start off on Monday. When they walk into the class, I start off by giving an introductory lesson on the topic. And again, this topic will always deal with what we are doing as a class. So if we are writing, for example, we're going to start off, we're in our argument unit, and we are getting ready to write our argumentative essay. But before we do that, we have to first learn what a thesis statement is, or how to determine facts from opinions. So whatever skill I want to focus on for my bell ringer, it will, one, tie into what I want the class to be doing as a whole. And two, I will always start off their lesson on Monday with an introductory lesson where everyone gets the same instruction, and then I set them off to work on IXL on their own. So Mondays are always reserved for any notes or lessons over the skill that's covered with the bell ringer. Then at the end of the bell ringer period of class, I will tell them this is the IXL that we will be doing this week. And then when they come into class on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they will have 10 minutes max to work through the determined IXL exercise. When they work through their exercise, they have to reach a score of 85 by the start of class on Friday. Because remember, the IXL scores are broken down into 3 levels: proficiency, mastery, and excellence. Okay, proficiency is that 80 to 89 range. Excellence is the 90 to 99 range, and mastery is that 100. And like I said earlier in the video, I don't want to set the bar too high for my students because I don't want them to get frustrated, especially with them only having 3 days in class, 10 minutes maximum. So I want to set them up for success. So setting them up with that score limit of 85 means, and it tells them, I want you to be proficient in this skill so that we can go on with the rest of our unit. Now, I realize that some students want to do more than what's expected. So we all have those students. We all know exactly who they are, and we probably are thinking about them in our heads right now from the comforts of our own home. So for those students that always want to do more, give them extra credit if they go beyond the 85 score limit. Okay, you can offer anywhere from 1 point to 15 points extra credit, depending on how further beyond the 85 limit they get. So that is one way, and probably the easiest way to start incorporating IXL into your classroom, bell ringers. And you can do this so easily. So for instance, like I said, let's say we're working in my class in 7th grade with their argument unit, and we are getting ready to write our papers. We're getting ready to start the process of researching and writing our papers. Well, the first thing I want them to be able to do, I want them to be able to determine facts from opinions, because when we write an argumentative essay, we have to write with facts and not opinions. So for example, in 7th grade, this K2 skill, distinguish facts from opinions, this is a quick and easy bell ringer for the students to be able to do on their own, 10 minutes max a day, so that each student will be able to tell you what is a fact, what is an opinion, and how we use facts in our papers, not opinions. There's also another bell ringer, IXL, that I do with my argument unit, thesis statements. Thesis statements are huge in 7th grade, and a lot of students struggle with writing thesis statements and identifying what a thesis is. So I use this 7th grade K1 identify thesis statements as a bell ringer each and every year. And I've seen that it works. When we have the in-class lesson on what a thesis statement is and what different parts make up a thesis statement, and then they're on their own with IXL working their way through it, I have seen an increase in their writing when it comes to thesis statements, because they're able to write the parts needed to create a thesis statement. So I highly, highly, highly recommend 7th grade IXL K1 identifying thesis statements. Or if you're in 6th grade or 8th grade or any other grade and you're writing an argument paper, I recommend the thesis statement skill. So that's the first way I use IXL in the classroom. IXL is bell ringers. The second way I use IXL in the classroom requires a little bit more legwork from myself, from you as the teacher, but this is a great way for differentiation. And if differentiation is one of your goals, using IXL with small groups is a great way to tailor IXL to your students' individual needs. For me, when I'm ready to use IXL with my small groups, I first need to have their NWEA scores. I wait until after the first round of NWEA scores, and I look at those scores and I group the students together for each class period. This year we only took the reading test, so that was the only test that I used as my initial data. Sometimes, most times, I will use both the reading and the language depending on what skill I want my class as a whole to be working on. So after the reading test has been taken, I pull up each student's scores and I look to see where they are not hitting the grade level targets. So the easiest way to do that is in your NWEA site. If you go to Map Growth Reports, and then you click on Learning Continuum. This is the Learning Continuum, and you will get to this screen here. And then you would just go down through the tabs, and you would click to find your individual class. You will need to do this for each class. So that's why I said it's a little bit more intensive on your part, because you're going to be doing this anywhere from 1 to 6, 7 times, depending on how many classes you have. So you go to your class, you choose the test that you're looking for, and then you're going to get this continuum. This will be the first screen that you will see, but if you click these little arrows, that will expand each topic. And when it expands, you will be able to see what students, and it'll show on the right-hand side here, what students' scores were within each topic. So right now I'm looking at the literary elements, themes, and central ideas. And right now I have some students who are currently scoring in the 3rd or 4th grade reading level just based off of their NWA RIT score. And then I go further down the continuum, and I also have students who are hitting the 6th grade. They're at a 6th grade level when it comes to literary elements, themes, and central ideas. And what the middle column tells you, it tells you where they're at right now. So it will tell you right now, these are the things that your students who are listed on the right-hand side, these are the items that your students are able to do right now with the scores that they are showing in the NWEA. So what I'll do is I will use this learning continuum. I will use this learning continuum, and whatever students are on the right-hand side together, those are the students that will make my small groups. And if I have a lot of students on the right-hand side, I will break that big group into smaller ones of 3 to 4 students. I try to keep it 3 to 4 because 5 just gets to be too much sometimes. So once you've made your groups of students based on their specific skills that need more development, you can begin to work with those groups. You will need to go back to the IXL list of skills, and you will choose at each grade level that your students are currently working in, you will go and pinpoint the exercises that you want that particular group to work in. So if you have, let's just stick with reading strategies, let's go with main idea. So let's say I have 2 groups that are working in the 7th grade level for main idea. And that's what we're focusing on in our nonfiction unit. To make it easier for you, I would switch my view to topics. And I would scroll down to the main idea. And here you can determine what grade level skill you want them to work on. So again, I have 2 groups that are working at the 7th grade level. So in their small groups, they are going to work on A1, determining the main idea of a passage. And I have another group in the same class that's at a 6th grade level. So they're just slightly below grade level average. So they're going to work in the 6th grade skill level of determining the main idea. But let's say I have students that are working at a 5th grade level. There is a determine the main idea of a passage for 5th grade. So that is how I work with my small groups. Everyone's working on the same topic, but they are working at their individual skill levels according to their NWEA scores. Now, these small group work days are not your bell ringer days. These are days where your main focus is hitting on these skill levels that need to be hit on. So on these small group work days, each group is placed in a different area of the classroom, whether they're spread out. I'll even use the hallway sometimes. And using Canvas, there will be specific instructions for each group to follow. And I give each group a code name, so no one knows what skill they're working in or what grade level they're at. I don't label them my 5th grade group and my 6th grade group. I give them all code names. So each group's code name will be listed on the Canvas homepage, and they will click that link and there will be specific instructions for them to follow in their group. Usually it would be, I would film a short little tutorial video that they will have to watch before they can work on the IXL for the day. So once they watch that individual video, at the end of the video, I tell them, now to practice, we will work with IXL skill, and I would insert whatever skill I wanted them to work on. As they are working, I am bouncing around to every group, and I will sit with each group for about 5 to 7 minutes, and I will make them pause what they're doing, and I will work through my own example that's at their skill level. And my own example is taken from the IXL of their grade level. I just take a question, print it out, and we work through it together. So that way they're getting attention with their skill, with me in person at their level, and they can ask me as many questions as they want to. When they're working with or within their small groups, because this is not a group assignment, it's an individual assignment. When they're in their small groups, again, I just want them to reach the score of 85. I just want them to be proficient at the grade level that they are currently at. I'm not pushing for mastery, especially in this small group level. I'm just pushing for proficiency. So we will do that for 1 to 2 days, never back to back, because I don't want to bore them. So what I would do a small group work day on a Tuesday, and then I would do a whole class instruction on Wednesday, and then Thursday they would finish up their small group work where they would have to reach the score of 85 by the end of the class period. The reason why I do that is, 1, I don't want them to get bored, but 2, it also breaks it up. It allows them to work on their own skill level, at their own skill level on 2 days, and then sandwiched in the middle, they are using their grade level skills and then they're applying it to their current grade. So that's why I do it that way. Then, usually 1 to 2 weeks later, I try to do it the next week, but we all know sometimes life happens and, things get thrown at us and we have to push it back. But I try not to have it more than 2 weeks in between each one. The next time they're in small groups, usually 1 to 2 weeks later, they will work at the next grade level because they've already reached proficiency at the grade level that they were currently at what they scored at with the NWEA scores. So then the next week, especially if they were below grade level, they will work at the next level up. If they were already at grade level, then I would push them with the higher grade. So if they're already at the 7th grade level, I would push them the next week to work at the 8th grade level. Side note, I would never have them go 2 grade levels above where they are, because then it just gets to be almost too frustrating when the questions start getting a little bit harder. So I never go 2 grade levels above their current grade level. All right, another great way to use IXL is with your ELL students that are on the lower end of the WIDA scale and are working at the entering and beginning level. Now, I will say that this way of using IXL requires lots of coordination with the ELL teacher in your building in order for this to be successful for the students. I truly adore the ELL teacher at our building. She has helped me so much this year. So again, lots of coordination with your ELL teacher is required if you want it to work with IXL and your ELLs. Again, this is not an end-all be-all solution, just ways that have worked for me this year in my classroom. And the reason why it's imperative that you work closely with your ELL instructor is because that instructor will be able to accurately tell you the level that your students are at. So not just what the WIDA test tells you, but what they're doing in the classroom and how what they're doing with your ELL instructor can relate to what you're doing and can be applied to your classroom. For me personally, this year, the majority of my ELLs were at a level where they could still participate in the same activities as the rest of the class with little to no modifications. However, I had 3 students who were at the lowest level and were not able to fully comprehend the standards that I was teaching because they did not know any English. They could not understand any English when we started school. And at the beginning of the year, I was wide-eyed in shock, and I had no idea how I was going to reach these students because I did not want them to be lost in the classroom when they were probably already feeling lost in a country, in a state, in a city that they didn't really know anyone, couldn't speak the language. So I really leaned on my ELL instructor to help me and also help her teach these students English and get them to a place where they're comfortable holding small English conversations with me. Now, here we are in May, they're able to do that when in August we were relying heavily on Google Translate. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how I used IXL with my 3 ELL students that were very low on the WIDA scale, and they needed just a lot of background help in the English language in order to be successful just in life because they were new to the school and they just had to get acclimated to being in an English-speaking classroom. So like I said, this took a lot of coordination with our ELL instructor. And what we came up with is this Google Doc right here. And what I did is I would meet with her every Monday and every Friday, and I would get information from her about what they were doing in her morning sessions with them. What were the things that they were covering? So that way they would get introduced to it with Miss Bobby in the morning. And then when they came to me in the afternoon or later in the morning, whenever they had me, they were able to receive some individualized IXL practice with my help. So their levels that they started off at were very varying. Some started off in the first grade skill level. I had a student who started off in kindergarten, but everything was tailored to them. So as you can see, this week, the students were working with question words. 1 week in September, Miss Bobby was focusing on question words with them in her class, and so that's what they were working on in English class. And then the next week, they were working on unscrambling the words to make a complete sentence. And then the next week, they worked with the 5 W's, the who, what, the where, the when, and the why. What's the picture about? All of this was done, again, so that they were getting well-rounded instruction in the English language, so that they were able to feel more comfortable in school. And the great thing with IXL, what they were able to do, sometimes their computers would translate the entire page into Spanish for them, but sometimes they had to use Google Translate in order to translate it into their language. And that's what I noticed they were doing for a good portion of the year. And then once we got into second semester, we were able to bump up, go to the next grade level, second grade, third grade. One student got up to a fourth grade reading level, and they were able to not rely on Google Translate as much, and they were able to read the passages in English. So I am very happy, I'm very willing to share this document with whoever needs it. This was pretty much just my game plan for what the students were working on in English class. So this is what they would do while we were doing harder, more grade level, standard appropriate lessons. And I would always get the class started first on their activity, and then my ELLs I would pull aside for a small group and work with them on the skills that they were working with. So I printed out this sheet for them every week or every 2 weeks, and they had either the week or 2 weeks to work through these lessons. And again, I wasn't pushing for mastery. I just wanted them to get exposure and work towards that proficiency level. So again, and a lot of this was tailored to what we were doing in the class. So when we were working with nonfiction, they were reading informational passages at the second grade level. When we were reading our novel, they were analyzing stories. So everything worked with them at their level with what we were doing in the class. So that's kind of what I did with my ELLs, and they progressed. This was just a working document throughout the year, and eventually one of them went from a kindergarten level to a second, third grade reading level, and others went from a first grade reading level to a mid fourth to fifth year level, with being able to be exposed in their ELL class in the morning and then coming to me in the afternoons. Like I said earlier in the presentation, IXL is really only available with the TSC in math and English language arts. I am definitely not a math teacher. Math is not my strong suit, but I have seen how some math teachers in my building have used IXL, especially during our homeroom time, where I have students who have different teachers and I'm able to see what they're working on. And what I've noticed in the math classroom, they kind of mirror the same ways that I've used it in my English class. They've used IXL for introducing skills that they are currently learning. They've used IXL to reinforce skills that have been previously learned that maybe they need more help and attention in, working at a lower grade level and moving their way up to their current grade level. I've seen IXL assigned as homework, and I've also seen IXL assigned for quiz and test reviews. So if you're a math teacher, there are definitely ways where you can use IXL. You can even use it with a small group and just tailor it to fit your class. So, like I said, if you would like any more help, or if you have an awesome way that you have used IXL in your classroom, please don't hesitate to reach out. I truly believe in community. I want all of us to be able to collaborate together because ultimately we all want what's best for our students. And the best way we can do that is by listening to other teachers and taking away little nuggets from each of them that they have seen work. So my email is on the screen, and I would love to hear from other teachers in the corporation who've used IXL so that we all can provide the best possible educational experience for our students. So with that, I hope everyone has an amazing summer. Make sure you guys take the time to relax and above all else, take care of you because we cannot take care of our students if we are not able-bodied ourselves. So with that, this is Brittany Gray signing off. Have an awesome summer.